Good day and welcome to a new video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Hello, and today you're joined by me, Daniel, and Even Amundsen.
Hello!
You can check his work out at, he's got mischievous little elf at artstation.com or through Even Amundsen.
Yeah, if you're interested in buying books, you can go to time.shop and check that out.
Awesome.
Yay!
Oh yeah, you sell your own books?
Yeah. That's a little art project I came up with back in 2016, and we've made some books out of it, and sort of planning something bigger, but still kind of working on it. So for now, we have 3 books and some prints and things that people can enjoy if they're into that kind of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, just tell me a bit about yourself.
So okay, I'm a newly or I'm an artist from Norway. I've lived a little bit here, a little bit there. I lived for a couple of years in Canada. Lived for a few years in Czech Republic, and lived for a little bit of time in California, and then in Denmark. And now I'm back in the home country. I do freelance work mostly for video games and like fantasy board games and stuff like that. I do a lot of fantasy illustration. That's kind of my bread and butter. And essentially just kind of lazing around and trying to pretend that I know what I'm doing.
Nice. Yes, that's really cool. Yeah, so, how long does it usually take to, create a piece?
Oh, that's that's one of those questions that that's kind of impossible to answer, because
Yeah.
it so depends on the nature of the piece. Like some of the stuff that I've been doing lately for games, usually what you would refer to as a piece kind of is done in a day, because it changes so quickly, and the amount of feedback and the amount of changeover kind of stops. But if I'm doing like a bigger fantasy piece, then it can take anywhere from a couple of days to a week or two. Really depends on like how complex it is, because you can do one guy just posing heroically in the sunset, or you can do 20 people fighting a dragon. That's going to take a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the details, and things like that. If you get into too much detail, it can chew up a lot of time.
Yeah, and detail too early is a big problem for me. Like I'll sit there like rendering eyelashes when I should be focusing on pose and anatomy. But I try to be good about it. But sometimes you find yourself and you're like, I should have learned this 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it becomes enjoyable, It's like, you just want to. For me, I really enjoy just the me just painting fur, and like the scene me painting grass and things.
Mm.
It's just it's just so kind of therapeutic in a way. It's just those little strokes every now and again, and dealing with all that stuff. You just get carried away with it. I get so carried away with it, but yeah, you're saying that basically, yeah, look at the bigger picture. Just stepping away from all that
Yeah,
details every now and again is great.
yeah. Treat details like candy, essentially. Just like wait till you've eaten your dinner, and then you can have a little bit afterwards. Like make sure you have everything else nailed down, and then you can go in and enjoy some nice detail work.
Mm. Exactly, it takes a little bit to learn that, because sometimes it all they want to slap on and get ready to do all the colouring and all these final details, because they're so exciting to see, but you forget about these like little things sometimes, like the lighting and the shading, um, yeah, but those are really important though.
Yeah, and just trying to figure painting as more as something than something mystical, treating it like something that it is a craft. It does have certain rules and things you kind of have to follow to get a successful illusion of a three-dimensional world, and it's so tempting to try and like find shortcuts and stuff, and it's an ongoing sort of learning thing to appreciate the just the work, the craft of it.
Yeah, so this book, where did that come from?
Ooh, you fell out there for a second. What did you say?
I was asking about your book that you've been creating. Where did that
Yeah.
come from?
So it started when I lived in California, like 2.5 years ago now. Actually, that's more. It was in the beginning of 2016, so that's like 3 years ago now. And I wasn't getting along with California that well. Like I love the people I worked with, and that was, like nothing to say about that. But it was Irvine is my idea of hell on earth. It is just so boring. So I had to do something, and a friend of mine was visiting at the time, so we kind of gave each other a challenge of like doing some art every day, and I started like doing little characters every day. And then even after he left, I kind of carried on, and it became kind of my daily activity. And then after a while, it was getting to the point where I was starting to write little stories for them, and started like coming up with characters that started like recurring. And then after a while, I started. I did at the same time start like an Instagram, so I started like getting a bit of following on that, and then started just having a good time doing it. And then during that year, I moved back to Denmark, and I kept doing it. And there wasn't like a one point where I decided it was gonna go for a year, but there became kind of an unspoken rule for myself that I was gonna keep going to the 1st of January again, and then sort of give it a rest, and then maybe come back to it. And so it kept going and kind of got bigger and bigger. And my plan was kind of just to put everything out as a PDF afterwards, so that the people who were interested could have the images. But then a friend of mine, Spiridon Giannakis, came to me and was like, "No, we can make an art book out of this." And I was like, oh, "What do I have to do?" And he was like, "Nothing. I'll take care of everything." So I got really lucky that he sort of offered that, because I don't like none of that. Is something that I know and or have or a particular passion of how to do. It's extremely inspiring to see him deal with it, because he's very good at that stuff, and he can explain why this and this font is appropriate, and why this and this piece of graphic design is interesting. But it's still pretty much beyond me. So so it ended up sort of we did one book. It was 366 pieces. So doing one book was going to be way too large of a book. So we split it up into 3 books and sort of stacked the releases. And we did the first one as a Kickstarter, and then used the funds that we raised to print up the others and sold them off. So now we're kind of poking around with it and trying to figure out like how to make this something more interesting, like bigger and more interesting, and something you can kind of go deeper with. Because I'm big into like world creation. That's kind of my job. So I'd love to like manage to get a project going where the whole point is, rather than a daily sketch thing, sort of a world creation thing, and then see if people are interested in following it.
Awesome. Yeah, do you actually enjoy your these kind of personal projects that you make, or do you prefer other people's work that come in?
that is a that's a difficult dichotomy, because well, like on the one hand, like I do enjoy the work a lot, and I do enjoy sort of coming up with stories, and that part of it is really fun. But then someone else will come up with something that I could not have imagined, and all sense of self-reliance and self esteem kind of falls apart. Like if you've seen, if you know who Zadig is, Alexandre Desbois, he made a thing. Yeah, he made a thing with Garrett Hanna called Salt and Pepper, and it's just like the whole concept and the whole execution is so genius. And I'm sitting there every time I see it, and I'm just floored, because I'm like, I wish I had, the creative drive to come up with something like that. But then I realized that that's one of those things that I admire more than I want to emulate. Like I don't think that's something I would want to do, but it is something I truly enjoy watching being created.
Awesome. Do you think though seeing that kind of stuff really helps you, or?
Yeah, I think it's kind of it quietens some of those voices in my head that goes, there is no market for this. No one wants to see your silly drawings, you dumb ass. And then
Yeah.
like because I've been doing this for like 10 years, and I still
Mm.
sometimes if it's gone quite a while since I did something, there is still that inner sense of imposter syndrome where I'm just part of me is still convinced that there is the rectitude police is out there, and if I'm not careful, they're gonna get me, and they're gonna force me to get like a real job.
Mm. Yeah.
So for however long, I'm gonna enjoy drawing, but yeah, like if you're not careful, the imposter syndrome gets you, and you're sitting there like all catatonic and shit. It's pretty weird.
Fair enough. Yeah, it must be like, have you had a lot of periods where you have to find other jobs?
No, I've been very lucky. Like I've been freelancing for 3 years more or less straight now, and have had pretty good success in finding jobs and not having to sort of scrounge, which has been very sort of uplifting. Um, and before that, I had a couple of years of freelancing and a couple of years of studio work, and I've been pretty lucky about either when I needed a job, either I found a job or a job kind of found me, um, and I haven't had like it's been one of those kind of strange themes where you hear a lot of people in these kinds of interviews. They have these like wonderful eureka moments where they kind of like figure out they're going to be an artist and they've committed themselves, and it's this or death.
Hmm.
And it's not. I've never had that. Like I was fortunate enough to be raised in the Norwegian school system, so they kind of go with more of a hey, you want to try this attitude, and then
Hmm.
if you like it, you can keep going until it gets too difficult, kind of. Which worked very well for me because I've just it still hasn't gotten so hard that I can't do it,
Hmm.
but I still haven't. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing that I've kind of missed out on the whole like I'm now a super committed artist and that is all I am sort of thing. Because I see like in some people that really does lift them and forces them into that crazy discipline routine.
Hmm.
That like I've had it at certain points, but like if I'm super passionate about a project, but in general I am quite lazy, and I feel like that's an important part of like recuperating after a lot of work. So
Do you do things that like keep you out of that situation so you don't have to try and find normal kind of jobs?
I try to be sort of on at least the major hubs of exposure. So like
Hmm.
on ArtStation and Instagram and those things, which is usually actually where I get most of my contacts and jobs. Is
Hmm.
people find my work and it either gets passed around or it gets seen by someone who has a job and then they contact me.
Hmm.
And sometimes, if I find a studio or a project that I'm like, oh my god, that would be cool, I'll send off an email and sort of hopefully get a response. And
Yeah.
that has mixed results. Like
Hmm.
I I heard that Amazon was doing like a Tolkien project thing, and anyone I knew who knew anything about Amazon, I just badgered everybody for like who can I contact,
Yeah.
and everyone's been like Evan, just yeah, this is unless you know them, you don't know them, and I'm like oh man, I wish I could be on this, and the same for like the Denis Villeneuve Dune thing. I was like, I wish I knew someone who knew Denis Villeneuve because I really like drawing Dune stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have no idea if that project's going to look anything like I envision Dune. So I'm just excited that it's existing.
Yeah. Well, we can't do all the projects we want to sometimes. Um,
Is this true?
mm, it's definitely hard. I mean, you gotta pick sometimes as well, because I've got many projects that I want to do. I've got some traditional paintings I want to do. Um, I've got this book I want to finish. I've got all these projects on the kind of a go at the moment, but I've decided, this is what I want to do at the moment. I want to kind of get this book underway and finished. Um,
Mm.
so it's going good. I'm like halfway through it, I think. Yeah, just over halfway. And
What's the book?
yeah, it's a little children's book that I'm creating. Um,
Oh, you're making a book. I thought you meant you were like reading a book. I was like,
no,
hmm?
no, I'm creating a children's book at the moment. Because it's
Very
a
cool.
kind of thing I really want to do is children's books and things. I really love that kind of cutesy thing. Um,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Because I was also thinking today, I was like, earlier today, I was like, oh, can I do creepy? And then I tried it, and it's like, well, yes, I can. But
But
it's
do I enjoy it?
yeah. Do I enjoy it? And it's like, oh, not as much. But it's
Please do let me
there if
know.
I ever.
Have you read anything by? Oh, sorry.
Have you read anything? Well, sorry.
Oh, speaking of children's books, have you read anything by Dr. Seuss and like his writing method?
I've read a little bit of Doctor Seuss and things. Hmm.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss. Yeah, yeah. But like his method of writing is super fascinating. Where he would like limit his vocabulary to like 50 words
Mm.
and see if he could still make himself understood. And it's such a brilliant way of communicating with kids because they like the biggest problem most kids have with reading books is that they feel a shortcoming of vocabulary.
Hmm.
And like his whole point was that if he limited his vocabulary to less than that of the average child and still managed to make it interesting and fun and whatever, then he would make children enjoy books. And if you can raise children to enjoy books, and then they will then they will then they will grow up reading books for pleasure. And
Hmm.
that was kind of the whole point. I love that approach. It's super it's fascinating how much time he spent just understanding kids
Hmm.
before starting to write for kids.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a field of its own. It takes
Mm.
a lot to learn that kind of thing. I mean, I never thought about actually writing books. Um, for me, I kind of just wanted to create the illustrations. Um,
Mm.
but in the end, I did when I was at design school. I decided, I really want to actually try this thing, and it was, I was gonna create a book. I didn't know I was gonna write the thing, But in the end, I read the whole thing, and it was quite a challenge. I was back and forth between course mates, getting them to critique the actual book. There was like, a lot of intensive research and stuff done as
Mm.
well. We had to look intensely into a bit of research for topics. So I looked into like children's books and the use of like literature and a lot of things, and eventually led me to go see a little group of kids and talk to them to let them show them my book and my stories and show them that, which was very helpful. Um,
Mm.
yeah, it's good
Well,
to.
they are the target demographic, so it's good to see that
Mm,
they like it.
yeah, exactly. It was good to be able to share with them um, some ideas of what I had, because I was trying something new. We all had to like really try something new. For me, it was for the book. It was that you had to associate the words with the text. Um,
Mm.
so they had to like place. It was like a magnetic book kind of a thing, but it's a sticker book. It's supposed to be a sticker book.
Huh?
They stick the stickers in um, to complete the whole story, and it could be missing things like imagery or text. Um, that really just finished and completed the story, and hopefully it will teach kids things, and um, yeah, they get a bit more out
Uh,
of it as well. Get and
yeah.
that's
No, that's
also.
cool, and then it's a good way of including them in the reading, so it's not just words; it's actual actions, so they feel like they're taking part. That's clever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I always want to do a bit more than just create a book. I'm just
Mm.
creating this book because whilst I'm creating this book. Um, I mean, I've got so many things of this book while I'm creating it, you know, which is great.
Mm.
And you know, as I'm going along too, I'm learning things about my illustration skills as well, because you know, I'm not the greatest with grass. I'm not the greatest with backgrounds and things like that. I'm more, you know, I've been focused on just like creating just the characters and just, you know, what I see sometimes. Um,
Mm.
so delving really into backgrounds a bit more um, is another field that I'm getting better at. You know, it's like, oh, how to do this? How to maybe I could simplify this and then try this and. You know, as I get further in the book, it's starting to get better and better, and I can go back and fix things up in the next paintings and stuff.
Mm.
Which is all, you know, the learning process sometimes.
It is, especially with tackling new subject matter. There's always this sort of process of like, what can I do? What do I have to admit to myself that I can't do? And how do I learn how to do that?
Exactly.
That's always hard.
Well, I don't think you can be able to know how to paint everything in anything. Um, you know, there's always something you can learn. Um,
Have you like speaking of like learning materials? There are a couple of key ones that I'm usually sort of drawn to. Like you know Andrew Loomis.
Andrew Loomis, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
the king of teaching drawing. So if anyone's sort of looking for good resources for learning some drawing techniques, his books are actually, you can find them free online. So just search for Andrew Loomis in Google, and you'll find all of his books as PDFs, and they're freaking fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty I think I've got his book. Yeah, I've got his illustration one. I've got it. And actually got given it from one of one of my sisters. I don't know how it works out, but she's in the family's line somewhere. Um, like auntie kind of a thing. Yeah. But yeah, she actually was a good artist. I haven't heard from her in years, but she's probably a bit old, pretty oldish, you know. But she's an awesome artist, which was great. You know, she really helped me and kind of taught me a few things and kind of pushed me a bit further sometimes as well. And pursuing art, because you know it's always a hard thing to pursue sometimes, especially, you know, with a lot of setbacks sometimes. If things don't go your way, you know. But yeah, her handing me that book was really awesome, you know. And I've still got it. It's really awesome to flick through every now and again. um, At the moment, I think it's in storage because, you know, we're at the stage of actually slowly moving out. But yeah, I'll probably look at that book eventually again. But
yeah, the best one I think is Fun with a Pencil, which is it's the most condescending title, but it is the best for like learning good drawing technique, because he is essentially like, you know, he worked back in the 40s and 50s mostly, I think, but his technique is all about essentially developing a 3D understanding of the world in your head, so that when you're drawing, you're depicting something that in your head works three-dimensionally, which is super fascinating, because when your head sort of wraps itself around that for the first time, and you start realizing that like drawing is at least drawing figuratively is kind of the discipline of depicting something that in your head makes sense, and then using the laws of nature to make that thing make sense to others. That is fantastic.
it's definitely, yeah, those books are worth reads. Um, I've only read that one. I haven't read it from cover to cover. I only just flicked through it slowly. Um, every now and again, I do read, and I do read these books and things, and it really does help. Um, sometimes, and I copy from it too. I haven't copied probably enough from it, but I have copied a fair bit from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Ian McCraig. Ian McCraig, he had, I can't remember, one of those books, and he copied it like 30 times or something. Yeah, it's just really cool. Awesome. So you've been on quite a few YouTube talks and things. I've seen you around there. What
Yeah.
what are your favorite ones that you've been a part of?
Well, I have no idea. I like the ones that turn into just like genuine chats about this thing that we do. Like sometimes it's very much like question one and then going through and going through, which can be charming if it's a sort of very pointed set of questions, because some people are good like that, but I do sort of find myself enjoying the ones where you can kind of just sit and chat and have a good time, and it's kind of just like sitting at a cafe and you just having a pint or something. Like it's just like when it's a good time, it's a good time. I guess that's an easier way of saying it.
Yeah, well, some of them like a bit kind of serious per se. Like like you're saying, like questions at you. Kind of like one, oh, not one news, but news things, presenting things, kind of that kind of category.
Well, some can get a little bit like that, but like one of my favorite ones is Miles Johnston's. Can't remember what the name of the podcast is, but he essentially does a podcast about sort of everything to do with artists development and kind of his take on a lot of the things that we all have to think about, and then he brings that into conversation, and that's good fun because he has interesting takes, but then he flips it around and he goes like, but I'm an idiot, and I'm like, yay, that's how we all should think. Everyone should be fascinated to death, and then be open for the fact that like I'm probably wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot out there, and yeah, there are some pretty cool ones like that. Very, there's some laughs in there sometimes.
Yeah.
Which it's just great to see that kind of thing out there.
Mm.
But yeah, I quite enjoy doing this, talking to artists, which is really cool. And I do try to keep it quite kind of open. I don't really want to be like all questions and serious all the time. It's really good, and
No, it's important to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Anywho, yeah, what's your favorite project you've worked on?
I think probably. I mean, apart from time, which is my own thing. I think working for doing magic cards is pretty fun because that's relatively free, and you're still kind of learning something because this is a franchise that's been going for so long, and any franchise that's been going for that long, you would kind of expect them to be very rigid and very set in their ways, but they're kind of the opposite of that. Like, their hiring process is extremely archaic because they only really hire artists who have been suggested by other artists that they know, so that they kind of insulate themselves against being fucked over by someone who doesn't deliver, or just difficult artists. And I think that's clever, if a little annoying when you're trying to get into it. Because if you are like I spent like 3.5, almost 4 years getting to do magic cards, and when I finally got it, it wasn't because they finally discovered me. It was because a friend of mine who had been doing magic cards for a long while kind of just offered me to do some on a whim, and I was like, hell yes. but then I had a large collection of their like we have your work on file emails,
Mm. Yeah.
and had kind of given up hopes. I was sending portfolio updates to them more or less as like this sort of desperate part of the course sort of thing. Like I just kept sending it because I'd been sending it for so long. I'd kind of given up hope a little.
Mm.
And so like that can be annoying, but working for them is a treat because they essentially just give you a description and some fairly vague guidelines, unless there's like very particular characters, and then they're like, yeah, do your thing. That's what we hired you for, and that's a wonderful little vote of confidence that you appreciate a lot as an artist. Being told like, yeah, we hired you for a reason, so now go forth and do your thing. And you're like, hell yeah.
Awesome. That must be a great feeling to have when you get that opportunity.
Yeah, no, that was like one of the things that was weird about working for Blizzard was that they hire you and refer to your style and how much they like it, and they kind of tell you how they're psyched to work with you and they think you're a good artist, and then you get there and like follow these guidelines to the letter, please, and you're like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Have you worked like? Oh, what's his name? Would you say that like the difference between working for a studio compared to maybe a smaller, like either a person or someone's, like how that is different?
I mean, apart from the whole waking up before 8 sort of thing that you usually have to do if you're gonna work in a studio, um, it's a more strict social hierarchy, right? So you have to make sure you get along with everybody, and you have to work well and closely with producers, which can be a hassle. And not to like, and that's the thing about producers. Like most of them are very lovely beings because they're usually people pleasers. Like they're people who know how to get along with other people, and that's a lot of the time how they get their job. But unfortunately, it doesn't mean that they're good in the ideas of game design or exactly how to balance an artist against a client. And so you kind of end up in these situations where the producer will be set between you and the client for whatever reason, and then the way that they interpret whatever feedback the client gives affects what feedback you actually end up putting into the piece. And so like that kind of bureaucracy can be super frustrating and can really sort of kill your enthusiasm for something. But that can happen in an outsourcing or freelance situation as well, but less, I think. Just because when they hire you for freelance, they tend to do so because they want particularly you. But if you're working in a studio, you more often than not end up being a little bit of a like jack of all trades. Like you kind of have to solve a lot of problems. But yeah, like there are definite positives and negatives. Like working for Blizzard, for example, was fantastic because I got to be in a bit of like a squad of artists working in the cinematics department, and they were just like such a rounded group of fantastic artists who were all better than I was, and that was super intimidating for the first kind of month, and then after that, I figured out that like these people can teach me a lot of things, and I would just kind of harangue them at every turn, and they'll be like, "Hey, what would you do in this problem? What would you do for this?" And then they would kind of sit down patiently and teach the new guy, which was fucking great.
Yeah. Awesome. So you learned quite a bit from being in Blizzard?
Yeah, I think the studio job I probably learned the most from was from being at Volta, especially working with a guy called Arnaud Feu, who's he's a fantastic concept artist who works and toils anonymously in the great city of Montreal. I think he's one of the best concept artists I know, and he's not one of the flashiest, and he's definitely not one of the most well known, though he deserves to be. And he definitely is one of those people who you want to beat over the head because they have no ability at all to take a compliment.
Hmm.
But he, like the idea of teamwork and the idea of sort of giving up the ego for the betterment of the project and that sort of thing. He taught me that without trying to teach me anything, which was great because I was a cocky, like 21-year-old junior artist who just like I wanted to be recognized for the genius that I thought I was, and then he kind of without being an asshole, he put me in my place by just showing me how much easier and better he could solve problems that I like really prided myself on solving in the most difficult ways possible. He would just be like, "No, you just take a large brush and you do this, blah, and it looks great." And I was like, "Oh man, my pride."
Hmm.
So yeah, like learning how to kill your own pride without that sort of ruining you as a person. That's an important lesson.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a hard lesson to get through. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so like that one is kind of it's very character changing
Hmm.
because if you don't learn that, you're liable to end up as one of those people that other people talk about as the person they don't want to work with. And I'm fairly sure that there are people who have had that feeling about me, and I can only like apologize to those people because I'm fairly sure that I was a bit of a cocky prick at some point, and then I was taught the error of my ways.
Hmm. Well, that's good.
Because this, yeah, because this job and this career is collaborative, no matter how you look at it. So
Hmm.
you'd better become one of those people who's fun to work with, because otherwise, you know, you're gonna miss out on a lot of cool things.
Exactly. Well, that's great. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I definitely had things like that. I know that I've got a lot to learn. And it's the thing about me. I've got a lot to learn. And some days I've had that being like I want to be the greatest artist in the world kind of a thing. I've had that feeling and um that, but I'm just trying to be the best artist I can be. Um,
Mm.
and that's I think that should be the main reason. That you've got to make yourself the greatest you can be. Not the greatest
Yeah,
in the
and
world. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Because first of all, like we're not long distance runners. There isn't like a one. There isn't a time to beat. Like this is a very abstract thing that we do. So trying to say like I'm going to be the best in the world, you don't even know what that means. But if you just come if like ugh, that sounds so like that sounds very condescending in saying it. I do realize, like, oh, you just gotta compare yourself to yourself. You gotta like whatever. Yes, cyber hippie, but it is true to a certain degree. Like you have to kind of give up this art school mentality of being the top dog. Because
Hmm.
first of all, nobody likes the top dog because the top dog is inevitably a prick who cares more about his pencils than his friends. So it's like, no, give that up. Realize that like drawing is a pleasure. It's something we do because we have thoughts that we want to put down on paper, and we have ideas and we have fun things. It's a way of communicating. And so there is no being the best at communicating, but there is being recognized for being good at communicating and being able to do that in the aid of the ideas of others. That's worthwhile. That's fucking great. So if you can change your mindset into something like that, then suddenly you're on the right track.
Awesome. Well, that's about all the time we have at the moment. Do you have any
All right.
other things you'd like to say?
Nah, I'm pretty, I'm easy, but yeah, if people are interested in some cool art books, then head over to time.org. No, not time.org, time.shop, and check out what we got and more to come.
Awesome. I'll put that down in the YouTube description for everyone to go check out. Um,
Awesome, Paul.
yeah, that's been me and Evan Amundsen. Yeah, so go
Yeah.
check out his work, his books that he's got. Um, yeah, awesome. It's been great talking to you. Hopefully everyone has
You too.
enjoyed this. Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.